Today I'm going to be tying up another fly with origins of the River Moy, and it's called the Ballina blue shrimp. Okay, so for the tag of the fly I'm going to use silver oval. Okay, and this is medium silver oval, I think it is, which will help the tail kick up further. So I just like to bring the thread right down to just above the hook points, and then just get the oval and do 2 or 3 turns towards the rear of the hook, and then the last turn just tuck it in underneath. Okay, then we can just trim off the waist end here. If you want, you can add in some fly shears and tie it up yourself, but I'm going to keep it simple as is. Okay, so we've got red breast feather, typical of most Irish shrimp flies. I'll put a wee video in the description too, a great wee tip of how to get the best out of your Irish shrimp flies, shrimp fly tails. Okay, so I just tie in at that tip there, and have a few fibres being tied in at the same time, no problem. Okay, and then I just trim off the excess. Then just with wet fingers, try and bend those fibres into the middle of the stalk. Okay, and then we just start winding that stalk on a few turns, probably 2 turns would be enough, maybe 2.5. We'll see how we get on here. Okay, yeah, there is only about 2.5 turns in that, so that worked out quite well. Okay, so what I'm going to do is trim off my excess, and then I'm just going to use my scissors, or you could use a needle, or you could take it out and just blow up the rear of it, and that will help you splay out the fibres of the golden pheasant. Okay, once I'm happy enough of those, I just bring them all back and I wet them, and then I just bring the thread over them. So then that means that those fibres are now being kicked up against that tag, which is a massive benefit, especially considering Irish shrimp flies are usually low water or slack water flies. It'll help with the pulsing movement whenever you either tip the rod tip or pulse the fly. Okay, so then the rear body is going to be red floss. So I'm going to put floss on, going to double it over here and tie it in on top, and then I'm going to use silver wire, or you could use silver oval, so tie it up to yourself, and that will act as my rib. Okay, just bring that right up to the tail there. Okay, and then I'll just bring my thread down to just past the halfway point on the shank. Okay, and then we just get our red floss and we just start to wrap them in touch and turns basically, and that'll show up very well even whenever wet because there's white thread underneath. Okay, then just come in and your thread is secured in. A few turns forward, a few turns back again, and then next we have our silver wire. So I like to do 1 turn at the rear and then 2 or 3 up the body. Okay, and then secure that into the thread again. A few turns going forward, a few turns going back, and then I'm going to just twist the wire instead of me cutting it off to save my scissors. Okay. At this stage what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to finish off my white thread here, just in a wee half hitch by hand. I'm going to put on darker black thread, as that's going to be the front and the head. Okay, so I'm just going to add on my black thread as normal. Okay, and then I'm going to add on the mid hackle, which is blue cock hackle. Okay, so I'm just going to expose the tip and break off. And then I'm also going to wax the thread, which is essential. And then I'm going to tie in at that break Then I'm going to bend those fibres back, which will then double the stock over as well. And that's a good base to start tying the hackle on. For the fibres, I'm going to just start to tease them into the stock. And for Irish shrimp flies, I like the mid hackle to be longer than the front hackle, but shorter than the tail hackle. Okay, so I'm probably going to do this. This is a small fly. I'm probably only going to do 2 turns of hackle here. So I'm going to just remove what I think will be my waste after my next turn. Okay. Then just come in and secure that. Okay, so the front body is black, so again black floss. Okay, and again I'm going to just use the wheel of the bobbin to double this. Okay, then secure that in on top. And then, then I just get my silver oval, or my silver wire from earlier, and I can secure that in underneath. Okay, just bring that right up to that mid hackle and back down to the head. Then we just get our floss, and this size is going to be slightly shorter, so a few less turns, and then we'll secure it in with our thread. And then again, just use your silver wire. You do a few turns, probably 2 or 3 turns, maybe most, for the front rib as well. Okay, then I'm just going to twist off my wire. And the joy about this fly, and I'm happy anyway, is that there's no jungle cock, so it's a bit of an easier fly to tie as well. And it also gives more movement. Okay, so I'm going to use basically, this is natural silver badger cock. It's not genetic or anything like that there. And I'm going to use wax thread. And again, just like I did the mid hackle, I've tied in at the tip going forward, bring it back, and then just a few turns on top. And then I'm going to just start to train those fibres to go into that stock. And that'll double the fibres. You could keep on doing this, but I think usually if it looks doubled enough, it's enough to tie on. Okay, so as before, I'm going to do 2 turns. So after my second turn, or after my first turn, I'm going to remove the suspected access. Nice thing about this badger hackle as well is it's got the black tips as well as the black centre. You don't really get that with genetic. It seems to be preferred by a lot of the Irish fly tyers, but don't know if it's the same for some of the American folks who make the most of the genetic badger hackles. Okay, so I've secured that in. I'm going to just do a few more turns to build up that head. And also try and, I've missed a wee bit of that stock. It's secured twice obviously, but just want to neaten it down. Okay, so final thing we need to do then is just get our rib finish tool. However your preferred choices are, I like to do about 5 or 6 depending. And just turn that onto the head. And that is a very simple but effective Ballina blue shrimp fly, folks. As always, if you enjoyed the video, check out the other ones coming up on screen now. Hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already done so, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks very much.